back. I'm David and this is Jessica, and welcome back to our channel where we talk about real estate, Orlando life, and new developments.
Today, we're going to talk about something that every homeowner needs to know if they're planning to list their home soon. There are some loopholes in the transaction agreement that we're going to let you know about so that you know what your options are and what to do if you're thinking of selling your home.
This is a loophole that agents are using to put more money in their pocket than they should. And it's happening because of the new rules that came out from the NAR lawsuit.
Yeah, the whole point of this lawsuit was to protect consumers and bring more transparency. And I feel like that's still a little bit muddled.
Yeah, I feel agents are using it now to their advantage to try to put more money in their pocket. And that's why we're breaking it down for you so you don't get caught off guard.
So we had someone reach out to us asking us questions about the listing agreement. They had a situation where a family member or a friend decided to buy the house, and they decided that they didn't need to use a real estate agent. They had an attorney friend that was able to help them with the paperwork. So submitted the offer, did everything, and then realized, thinking that he was saving the buyer's agent side of the commission to the seller, but that wasn't the case.
So where does that 2.5 or that 3% commission go that the agent negotiated before with the seller?
You would think the seller saves it, doesn't have to pay it back, but this is what we're going to break down today in this video. Where does that buyer agent commission go to? And you need to know what you're signing and understand the agreement that you're signing. And every state is different, but we're going to focus on what we do here in Orlando. In this scenario where this person asked us this question, they told us that the agent that they hired claimed that they signed a dual agency. And what that is that the listing agent can represent both sides. The contract that he signed was an implied dual agency.
So what that means is that if the unrepresented buyer walks through the door, the listing agent has the ability to work with that buyer as well to get the home sold. What happened in this case is that the agent told the seller that the buyer cannot represent himself, and that's completely false. The buyer can represent himself if they wanted to.
Yeah, that's the whole reason this lawsuit came about, is that compensation wasn't clear. People never knew how the buyer's agent got paid. It always came from the seller, and the sellers were like, why do I have to pay for this? And we're going to dive in why it benefits you to pay for it, but it's always negotiable. And
you don't have to pay, sellers don't have to pay a commission, but we always advise them
it's in their best interest
to pay a commission.
The good thing that came out of the lawsuit is that now it's more transparent what the buyer's agent gets. Now we're having that conversation with the buyers, like, do you know how we get paid? And so it does have its benefits, but there's that one loophole, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more now. A transaction broker is an agent that represents both the buyer and the seller in the transaction without being a fiduciary to them.
The transaction broker, instead of advocating for one side, what the transaction broker does, he advocates for both sides to help the transaction move along. Provides limited representation to both parties, remains neutral, no loyalty to either side, still has to disclose material facts.
In Florida specifically, transaction brokerage is the default relationship unless you request single agency. And here's the thing, for dual agency to be legal, the agent needs to be very clear with the buyer up front what that means so that they understand what they're signing. And the seller also needs to be aware that the agent can represent both sides.
So for the sellers, if you're in the situation and you want more clarity and the agent is not giving you the clarity that you need, I will contact your agent's broker. They'll be able to maybe sit down with you and navigate that contract with you.
Yeah, a lot of people think that the managing broker is our boss, but they're not our boss. We're independent businesses. They're there to protect the consumer and do what's right. And they want to do this by the law and by the book. Broker wants to stay in compliant. They don't want any trouble. They don't want their agents in trouble. They're there to make sure everybody understands what their responsibilities are and what the contract states.
So Jessica, what ended up happening with the story?
So basically, we told them, contact the managing broker. I always say, ask your agent questions, because if you don't understand something, you need an agent that's going to be able to explain the contract very well. But if you still have questions and you're not getting the clarity that you need, contact the broker. So they were able to negotiate that commission down even further, and the seller was able to save. So the commission went down to 3% to the buyer's agent, and the seller did end up saving some money. In the state of Florida, the contract is pretty much the one that everybody uses. And you're going to see there's a section for what the listing agent compensation is going to be. And then there's a section for what the buyer's agent compensation. And you fill that out, whatever you agree with your agent. But what's happening is agents are putting the total compensation at the top. And then if, let's say, the buyer's agent comes in and asks for 2.5 and the agent negotiated 3% on both sides, then the agent gets 3.5 and then the buyer's agent gets 2.5. So then that's what's happening a lot of times, is that the agent, and we saw it ourselves, the agent was negotiating our commission even lower than what the average nation is. And we knew that the buyer was not going to be able to pay that difference to us. So what's happening that we're seeing is agents on the listing side, some agents are putting more commission in their pocket from the buyer's side. And if they have the total amount there and a specific, there's three options. The compensation goes from the broker directly to the other broker, which is the buyer's broker. So listing side to the buyer. So let's say they put 6% at the top. And then in that line, they put 3%. But the agent can negotiate that commission with the buyer's agent. So let's say they negotiate a 2%. Now that listing agent gets a whole percent. And that's essentially what happened in this story. The agent was able to negotiate more than what the buyer's agent took home. So let's say the buyer's agent was okay with 2%. That listing agent took 4%. So instead of you saving that 1%, it's you agreed to that, basically. And that's what we're seeing happening. And what's happening is that when that happens, or if the agent is trying to negotiate the commission lower than what the average is, they're taking their buyers somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And that's why we say it's important for you to offer compensation to the buyer's agent, because many times, especially in this market, the buyer can't afford to buy the house and pay the agent commission. So it is in your best interest to offer some type of compensation, but you need to make sure that your agent is explaining those three options. The way we like to do it is select the middle option, which is the seller has to sign off on that commission. So you know every step of the way who's getting what. If you select that top option, then you already know you negotiated the commission and you don't need to see what the buyer's agent's asking. The only way you see it is at the end, at the closing table, when the title company lists where all the money is going to. Then the last section is you choose not to offer compensation and you leave it open for the buyer's agent to send it in an offer. Now, 9 times out of 10, they're going to send in what the highest compensation is around at that time. So it's good and bad. And we always get clients when we're listing houses, they always call and say, are your buyers offering compensation? So it's good to be able to say, yes, we're offering. Sometimes they'll ask us, what is the compensation? And this is the bad part, is that if we say the seller is offering 2%, that's below the average. They might tell their client, listen, you're not paying my full commission. You might have to cover that 1%. So the buyer then has a decision to make. Do I really want the house and pay 1% to my agent? I don't have that money. So then they have to go somewhere else. So that's why I say it's important for you to offer some type of compensation, and you can discuss it with your agent depending on the area and location, what that might look like. And remember, it's all negotiable. When a buyer sends in on an offer, the agent will likely send in what they're asking for to be compensated. And at that time, you can decide what you want to do.
And that's why hiring the right agent is very important. You want to make sure that you hire an agent that has these contracts, that knows these contracts like their palm of their hand.
And that they're getting the education that they need, because right now, this is the contract right now, but they're constantly getting revised. When things like this happen, the higher ups look at it and, oh, there's discrepancy here. Let's arrange it. When this NAR lawsuit happened, the contract changed like 3 times before what we have now. Like, it changed so much. So staying educated, having a brokerage that is education first is so important. And if your brokerage is not education first, finding an agent that will seek that education and is knowledgeable on the contract and how to explain it, they need to be able to explain this contract to you so that you know what you're signing.
So there is some positive about dual agencies. The positive thing about dual agency is that you can save more money. We could put more money in your pocket by using one agent on both transactions.
Well, and it could be depending on the realtor, right? The way we work is, if the buyer comes with no representation, we save you on that side of the commission. And we discuss this with you. We're very open about it. Prior to you signing the contract, we let you know, hey, if this happens, this is how much you're going to save. Because we want you to have a win-win. And obviously, the buyer's agent does have responsibilities. So there is some cost to that, because there is some paperwork involved and deadlines that we have to track on that side of things too. But it could be beneficial for the seller and the buyer.
Another benefit is that, some houses don't even have to hit the market if you find the buyer, right? We had a case where we were selling a house. The house didn't even make it to the market, and we already had the buyer for that house.
Yeah.
So essentially, we saved the seller some money, and we were able to get our buyer into a new home. Just keep in mind, in some states, dual agency is not practiced. Here in Florida, we do practice dual agency.
And listen, if you are not comfortable with dual agency, you can request to have an agent represent you as a single agent. That is available here in the state of Florida for buyers and for sellers. But let us know down below, do you feel comfortable with the dual agency, or would you prefer somebody to represent you and just you?